Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, afternoon, and good evening, depending on what time zone you're in. I want to thank everyone for your time today to set aside to really be introduced to a whole new line of phones that's going to be rolled out in production, available here in America, beginning at the latter part of November and early December timeframe. So here's a quick sneak peek of our XU series product. As many of you know, we've been issuing phones for many, many years. And this new series of phones, in essence, will complement the existing lines with much added capability. Okay. Along with this webinar, a couple of housekeeping things. What I want to do is, if you have any particular questions, by all means, feel free to go ahead and put your questions in the question mark thing, and I will try to answer them at the end of the webinar. And in addition to that, I've also loaded my handouts, so there's no need to kind of take notes. I've already uploaded a copy of this presentation to the handout screen, so if you want a copy, you should be able to go into the Hangout section of this presentation and download it at your leisure, okay? So along with me today is a guest from ABP Technologies, who is Melvin Worley. I want to bring him and introduce him to you. Go ahead, Melvin.
All right. Thanks again, Tommy. Hello, everyone. Thank you again for attending this actual webinar on the new XU series. Myself, personally, over here, I work very close with Tommy and the Fanvil product team, and making sure, of course, we added value-added solutions for you, all of you resellers across the channel. And so I'm definitely excited and looking forward to extending our business and also helping grow your business as well. So thank you again, and please definitely enjoy this presentation.
Thank you very much, Melvin. Okay, everybody, if you want to hang in there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to really talk about three particular characteristics on our new product line that we're coming out with. And what I really want to concentrate on is not just going over the basic features that everybody kind of knows about, because I'm sure 90% of the audience here is very familiar with phones, but what I want to concentrate on is on differentiation. I'm going to go over the characteristics. I'm going to also go over the specification upgrade, meaning what we did before and how we're actually bringing the new products online today. And on top of that, I want to show how Fanvil can really help your company increase your exposure as well as business to your local marketplace, and then highlight some of the functionality that we did. And one of the reasons why I uploaded the presentation to go to webinar and for you to download is that along with a lot of the slides, you're going to actually see we've actually put in some what I call very basic cookbook type menus to kind of show you how you really take care of these basic features, you know. And I think when you put in these features, people can go, oh, okay, this is kind of, you know, very easy and nice. And I want to kind of provide to you a really quick sort of, you know, how to configure phones type of thing for your basic user. So without any said ado, the two identities that we're going to bring forth is really the XU series, but I want to complement that we also have an XX series that's also coming out with new. And if you notice on the bottom line, the X3U perspective, what we're showing here is the main line here, F3U, 4U, 5U, and 6U. All of these phones really bring out what I call unique features. And I also want to put in the 3U here because the 3U kind of represents our low-end product line, which allows you to sort of really address those entry-level marketplaces. And because we do that, we actually have limited functionality, so we actually take out some of the reduce back on some of the other features and allow you to kind of pick and choose the features that you want on some of the beginning entry-level series on the X3S and the X3SG versions. Whoops, hang on just a second. Some of the feature highlights that I wanted to point out on our XU series primarily. One of the things that you'll notice on the XU series is that from the entry level all the way to the very beginning, they are all color screens. A lot of our competition out there start off basically with black and white on the very, very basic ones, and then they eventually emerge into color. Ours, on the other hand, is color all the way from the bottom end to the high end, and we include some additional function keys, as well as a very easy way to kind of script out some of the SIP functionality keys with the other keys that actually make our phone a lot more productive from a user end standpoint. In addition to that, we also want to point out HD voice. A lot of people use the word HD voice in many cases, but what we've done is we've actually implemented on our kind of the mid to high end XU series, we actually put in a Harman speaker, which is known for its quality, so that we can even further, enhance the quality while at the same time achieving your target price points against our competition as well. And one of the things that you'll notice as well is that we also all implement IPv6, the next generation, IP. There's a lot of rumor out there that, not rumor, it's actually a matter of time before IPv4 is going to run out of all addresses. And what you end up buying today from the XU series will not only cover you for the present generation, but also for future generations. And there are many companies now that are actually implementing and rolling out IPv6 as we're going on. All the other ones, as you know about, they're all your very basic things like easy provisioning. Of course, we have a redirection server that allows you to be able to go out and be able to register MAC addresses and actually achieve out-of-the-box provisioning. So these are all of the kind of the basic features, but I want to go ahead and show some of the way that we actually differentiate from our competition. And as I mentioned earlier, the X3U, so this is an actual complement to the existing XG and the XG and the other older model numbers that we have. So I want to concentrate primarily now on the specification upgrade on the XU series. Starting off with the S, as I mentioned earlier, we divided the X3 into 3 separate categories. Before the XU, we actually upgraded the XS series. And I had noticed earlier that there are no DESI strips. They're all gone. And also, if you notice that starting from the very beginning, they are all color screen. And one of the things that we've actually done is actually be able to divide a gigabit interface available in the X3 XG, as well as starting with PoE and a very standard 3S. What's the difference between these is primarily price point. So depending on some very, very basic phone applications, what you want is a really basic phone that kind of you could put in a cafe and things like that, and don't need all of the fancy features, so that at that point, you can really achieve the price targets that you're looking for. Here is the series that I want to talk about a little more in the future, and we start off with the X3U. And one of the things that the X3U, as I mentioned earlier on the feature request, is that we include the latest requests like Opus codec. We include things like IPv6 compatibility, and as well as upping on some of the medium to higher end integration of HD audio using the Harman speakers, and also integrating some of the Bluetooth capabilities on the X5 and X6U. But let me dig into that a little bit deeper. As you know, for some of the basic functionality on the X3U, we don't necessarily have a lot of function keys because it's really a basic phone. But what I also want to do is you move up to the 4, 5, and 6, you'll also note that on the side of the screen, you'll see a big difference between our phones here and some of the phones that you'll see elsewhere, is that we've actually divided the SIP accounts on the big screen along with the function keys. And what you'll find in the marketplace is that as you increase the number of SIP accounts that you register on a phone, many phones will actually take up space on the actual function keys. So the more SIP accounts that you load, you end up loading up on all of the SIP accounts that you have here, taking away from your immediate availability of function keys that you have access to. So what we've done is we've divided it so that in many cases you have upper keys in both the 3, 4, 5, and 6, where you can actually divide and actually control which lines you want to actually pick up from or call from or transfer to, just simply from looking at this upper screen. This makes the end user experience far more straightforward and very much more intuitive in terms of its operation. Okay. Let's move on to the X3U in terms of the upgrade. I'm not going to go through all of these different features word by word because a lot of this stuff is very straightforward, so this is going to be very quick. From the old series to the newer series, we've actually gone from a 2-SIP line all the way up to a 6-SIP line series, so we've actually increased the processing speed. And when I talk about sideline keys, I want to talk about 3 here. So that means that here you can actually outline 3 sideline keys that you can actually go ahead and assign either a SIP account or some other function key that you want to assign to. Of course, we increased the number of phone books from 500 and actually doubled it to 1,000, but we've added all the basic common features that people actually look for to not only protect themselves for today, but also protect themselves in the future in terms of IPv6 and Opus. Now, you know that in most cases, most organizations have very high bandwidth, but for those people who actually have low bandwidth availability, you could actually use the Opus codec as one of many options to give you that clear voice capability over low bandwidth situations where you don't necessarily have fiber connected to your hub and everything like that. So you can actually achieve far better voice quality that you can understand in low bandwidth situations. Moving from the 3, where it doesn't have any speed dial keys, we introduced the first set, the X4U series, which actually brings together some keys. Now, you might say there's only 6 keys available on the side, but actually there's other keys here that gives you 5 pages of it, which actually updates the DSS keys up to 30. And what that means is that you literally have 30 sets of keys that you can show right here or on this phone here, and we give you 3 access keys to a functionally sized color screen that you can actually see here. We actually have a speakerphone key that provides everything, and we also include a USB port. The USB port on the X4U gives you that capability of hooking in things like a memory stick for call recording. It also gives you the capability of hooking in Bluetooth as well as a Wi-Fi dongle, depending on the kind of interface that you want on the phone. So it gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of how you want to bring this phone into the field. Now let's move into the X5 series. What the X5 series does, it actually brings the Bluetooth not only through the USB port, but we actually integrate it into the phone itself. So that saves the integrator as well as the reseller a $25 option that you would normally have to pay for other solutions that's actually built into this phone. We also integrate into it as well 30 DSS keys with a much larger screen here, and increase 3 to an actual 4 sideline keys. And we also brought much larger the color screen that you have access to. Inside the X5U as well as the 4U and 6U are also integrators of our Harman speaker that actually brings out a lot of the sound. What I want to do is not only does it bring out speakerphone sound, but I want to show you other accessories that it's also capable of doing that I think you'll be very impressed with moving forward. So after the 5, we're going to actually migrate up into the 6XU series. Now what the 6XU does is we've actually doubled the capability of these sideline keys. So instead of actually exposing 30, we'll actually bring up 60 different function keys over these sets across these next page keys, which give you lots of functionality for those who really like buttons. I mean, when you look at it, it's almost like integrating a sidecar onto the phone itself. I mean, you know, unless you want everything up front, if you need to see more buttons up front, then I would highly suggest you look at the X210 phone. That will actually contain more buttons than one can actually think of, because that actually has an integrated 2 sidecars on a single motherboard that's inside these phones. Plus, in addition, it also has a built-in Bluetooth that you would see here, coupled with far more 5 sideline keys that you can separate the SIP account along with it as well. But one more thing that it'll actually have beyond that, it's also an integrated video codec, which is H.264, which I'll get into a little bit more in the future. Okay. Moving on to the next slide. Here's another differentiator that I want to talk about in the XU series. Is not only can you just provide our phones into the marketplace, but I want you to also show the capability that we can actually download and do your logo as well. If you notice that this phone key is missing this top piece on the top, which actually shows on the phone here itself that you can actually, instead of putting Fanvil, you could actually put your company logo. And on specific models, you could actually go down even as low as 200 units for minimum order quantity. And we can go ahead and take care of putting not only our brand, but actually your brand logo and put that in front of the customer. So that's a very low risk threshold in order for you to get into it. And we're going to be doing future enhancements that allows full-fledged capability. Now, if you decide to do your own logo, we'll also modify the external box so that the box, external cartons, as well as the actual phone itself, will reflect your brand and not ours. That's actually a very big line of Fanvil right now. We're actually a very large OEM manufacturer to many people, and what we do is not only will we do it to them, but we'll also do it for the medium to grow it to the larger growing bars that don't have an issue with about putting in a $200 minimum, 200 unit minimum unit quantity, and we'll actually put your logo on there. Now, some of the highlight functions I want to talk about is looking at the Wi-Fi connection, Bluetooth capability, the video preview, and so on. These are how some of the things that Fanvil will differentiate itself against the competition. Now, Wi-Fi connectivity is pretty simple. Most people have this capability through the USB interface. We actually sell the USB connectivity ourselves, and you can actually plug it into the back of the phone, which gives you full connectivity. And depending on the model, we actually show the ability to connect to Bluetooth. One of the things that we've done in Bluetooth connectivity, sorry for the toggling, I didn't know that this was automated, is we actually show the ability to highlight what the sorry about that, is to highlight what type of Bluetooth capability we have on the X4, 5, 6U. Everybody thinks about headsets, but what I wanted to talk about is that our XU series has far more capabilities in our integrated Bluetooth that go well beyond headsets. So you can go ahead and we actually include functionality so that you can pick up calls as well as being able to hang up calls remotely when you don't have to sit in front of the phone. And in addition to that, we also provide what I call a two-step capability in being able to show you that ability so that you can just download on our configuration and be able to connect to this Bluetooth headset. Now, one of the things that, I'm getting tired, so excuse me for scrambling around. For a 1-2 function, you can actually take this, go through the menu key on the actual thing. And if you know how to declare a Bluetooth connectivity on your smartphone, you're almost 99% there. The hookup on the actual desk phone is done the same exact way. So you could actually just go in, turn on the Bluetooth, find out your headset, pair it up as you would normally do, and you can actually do some headset connectivity. But beyond the headset, what we can actually do is we could actually download, you could actually pair a autophone or your smartphone to our integrated Bluetooth. That includes the X5U as well as the X6U phones. What this does is for those of you in the audience who is capable of having a Bluetooth functionality in your car, as soon as you walk into your car and you pair up your smartphone, as soon as you receive a call on your smartphone, the speakers on the car will automatically come on, and then you could actually speak without letting your hands off the wheel. Our value add to that is not only do you have to listen to basically the tinny voice over a speakerphone on your smartphone, but it'll actually come through the Harman speaker on the actual phone so that you can hear crystal clear sound that's actually coming through your Bluetooth line. This is a very nice capability in that, you know, it's not necessarily a safety feature, but a performance feature. So once you come in and you actually pair up your phone, now your desk phone as well as your smartphone can be integrated as one, so that once you receive a call, like a person like me, I enjoy using speakerphone most of the time because I have my own office. And for those who like to use that speakerphone, it's a big plus for people like me or those who like to use the speakerphone. Now let's jump into the 6U, and what the 6U capability is doing is being able to add a single video decoding codec. What that is we include the H.264 codec into the X6U. We also include it as well as the X7, as well as the X7C. We're not going to concentrate on those particular models as they've already been released, but those are our touchscreen as well as the much larger screen phones that has a video codec inside it. And what that gives you the capability of doing is giving you the ability to load high resolution, about between 10 and 30 frames per second, so that you can actually see who's at the door. Now, one of the things I wanted to bring out is that it also has video preview. This is another differentiator that we bring on ours, that if you decide to put video applications on the phone, what you can do is that you can actually see who is actually at the gate or at the door before you actually answer the call. In most SIP applications, what ends up happening is that a SIP application has to be active and talking on the phone before you actually see the person. What we can do is actually do video preview so that you can actually see who's at the gate before you actually engage with that person that's trying to enter into your corporation, your house, or your property. So in that case, you can actually click on one of these keys that are on the side here and give you that capability to actually view the person who's at the door before you let them in. Again, this is just another enhancement of security, and this feature actually came in as a request from some of the accounts that we have to say, wouldn't it be nice if we could do that? And by the way, one of the other product lines that Fanvil does is video door keys and door intercoms that actually have videos, but I'm not going to talk about that product line. The series that I'm talking about here is actually talks about our XU capability. So let's look into our video preview. This gives you a pretty high resolution on the type of clarity. I'm sure it'll also support floating JPEG video as well, because depending on where you are, but if you have that capability of doing the video, you can actually view this in advance. Now, this is a preview of our video preview capability. As you notice in the bottom, you can see the capability of being able to answer the call or reject the call, depending on who you see up here. So that's a very nice capability that gives you sort of an advanced heads up as to who's at the door before you allow that person in, or you may want to call the police, depending on who that person is. Hopefully that doesn't have to happen that often. And again, some of the cookbook applications is that we put up a quick 1-2-step way of being able to show the ability to do a specific login feature here. You could put in the IP address of where the camera is located at, and actually put it into one of the functional DSS keys, and you can actually have the ability to view one of your IP cameras without X6U or X7U or X7C type of phone applications. So this is a nice reference that gives you kind of a pointer and being able to tell you what you need to do as well. This is just another preview application where you can actually enable preview outlined in this box, where you can actually show in the preview mode, as well as being able to enable it on the box. So this kind of gives you a quick advanced look at video preview. Another capability is call recording. This is fantastic if you want to work with attorneys, if you have any clients who like to record their calls, either for security or for legal purposes. We actually show that you have a red light that shows up on the dashboard saying that it can be recorded. And then when you show that, we have the ability to load that either local recording, which means a USB flash drive that you could put into the USB port, or you can load on the network recording. You could have many applications that actually record voices on the network, and you can record on the network. And you could also have PBXs that have call recording capability, which can interface to our phones, that you could actually record there as well. I kind of showed 3 different capabilities of different phone manufacturers, as well as locally. You could see here that you can actually see the actual file size of the USB file, including with all the USB file calls that we receive. This one right here kind of shows you a server base. We actually provide a Fanvil device management system to allow our partners to be able to load our management system, which gives them the ability to load, proper firmware, being able to record recordings, and actually do performance measurements as well. Then you have other 3CX manufacturers here, and many other PBX manufacturers that support call recording, that is also capable of taking it and being able to record calls with our phones as well. So that level of flexibility does exist, and it doesn't really reside against much of the people that are providing endpoints that are out there. Now let's talk about SIP hotspots. This is another capability which allows our phone to be almost a SIP hub in itself. What does that really mean? That means that in most cases when you're deploying SIP accounts, it actually goes to one phone, and it's a lot easier to manage one phone. In this case, we show it's a 6XU hotspot. Let's say this is the master phone. And what you can do is you can actually declare other phones as sort of slaves to this major HubSpot phone, that when this main phone rings, it can actually declare and call these other phones. It'll ring at the same time as well without necessarily setting it up as a separate registrant of the extension. So take, for example, like a hospitality application. If you want to download and call up room 305, not only will the main phone ring, but you can have other phones that reside in the bathroom or other rooms within the hotel ring all at the same time, and the first one that picks up the line will actually pick up the call. You can assign a specific key to assign this hotspot so that if he or she at the front desk is out for lunch or out for a break, you can enable this type of feature so that two phones will ring at the same time while only having one phone that's registered to that one SIP account. A very, very big functionality. Again, this is one of those things where we listen to our clients and be able to add this new level of functionality to the phones based on some customer requirements. And we feel that it adds a lot of value to the end user as well. This is just a quick screenshot of FDMS, which is really our management system. We have two items that are involved. We have one that's the management system, but this also works in conjunction with the FDPS, which is our redirection server as well, which is a whole separate application, which allows you to be able to register all of our phones' MAC addresses and be able to point to either your custom config server or this FDMS management server to allow you to really do performance measurements, to download specific firmware files and upload them as you please, and you can do it over one simple interface. This one management interface is actually handy when it also can incorporate a lot of the door key phones, the with and without video and intercoms that we have all under one roof. So this is kind of a good integral application that brings them all into one interface. Last two slides, I just want to go over some of the roadmap features that we're actually doing. I'm just going to go over this in a quick sum, and a lot of this feedback came from customer requests, and we also welcome, if you have specific requests, I encourage you to send them over to sales@fanvil.com. We'll go ahead and pass through and look at every single one of the requests that come in, and some of you might end up having a good idea. User interface style and rebranding customization. I showed earlier that you can actually rebrand some of your phones with the custom emblem on the outside, but what we've also done is being able to introduce custom Gooeys as well as the boot up so that it can actually display different colors and different screens that you're capable of showing whatever branding that you have in your phone as well, and that's something that's moving into the phone. Some of the other roadmap features that I want to show you is, hang on just a second as we get back to that slide, is custom indication of BLF keys. As you note out there, there are dozens of different phone manufacturers that are out there, and we like to minimize end user behavior change when you change a phone system. To some people, they were used to a green light that was blinking. Some people are used to seeing a red light as being an indicator. What you're capable of doing is being able to have us customize those LEDs to match the behavior set of what the previous phone was, so that the end user doesn't necessarily have to change their behavior that they were used to so many times and say, hey, I'm used to seeing this as a blank green key or a steady red key, and now it's flashing. I want this to be steady. We're going to make all of these options far more customizable for our integrators and resellers that are out there. Of course, we have incoming calls, and you can customize ring prompts depending on the type of extension that comes in. In terms of function locks, security is also a very big thing. Today, we have the ability to lock the phone down on a specific lockdown, but also as we move forward, we want to increase the resolution of this lockdown so that maybe certain functions like being able to broadcast across a company may be limited to specific phones, and all these things and lockdown keys will be able to do that as well. DTMF toggle, what that does is on all of the different toggle buttons on the screen that you see here, not only would you be able to do that for one function, but we're able to enable or disable a function. So say, for example, some people may have to dial a code to enable their voicemail or to forward their calls. you can have it enable or disable. So depending on the status of that one key, you don't have to waste two keys to have that toggling function between enabling and disabling a particular function. Okay. Again, when you think about multicast, multicasting is a great capability of announcing emergency broadcast systems, say throughout a school in case you have a bad situation. But very often, multicast is always limited to your immediate network or that immediate switch that handles all that multicasting. But what we're capable of doing now is being able to multicast across other campuses and other buildings that is connected across the internet, so that not only could you multicast in the immediate campus, but you could also internet to another campus and have it multicast somewhere else as well. And these are all the items that we're actually working on and will be implementing throughout our XU series in the coming future. Now for our last slide is that we're going to have a sample program. Now that you've heard about a lot, many of the resellers as well as the integrators can take a look at it. We established two different bundles. We have a bundle for the X4 and X6U for just slightly over $100. You can bundle these two. You just have to speak to our distribution partners to be able to get access to this. And then we also have another one that's under $100 for the X5U and the X3U. So you could bundle both of these phones and be able to go ahead and run some experiments. This is not intended for a production capability, but allows for those people who haven't gotten a lot of experience with Fanvil, and it gives you a very low entry point on being able to establish a low end as well as a high end bundle. Well, it's not actually low end, both of these things can work, but you could actually go ahead and sample at a very low risk and be able to do that and get familiar with our phones. Okay? So that's all that I have for now. I'm going to switch over to Q&A and see if whether or not there's any questions on board. If anybody has any questions, feel free to stop in and be able to put in any questions that you have. And I'm here listening to it. Let me see if I could find any questions anybody might end up having before this has gone out. One person may have stated that, in terms of color-wise, one of the things that we may have introduced, by the way, is that I think one of the phones, all the phones that you see here are black, by the way, and we've actually colored in case for emergency situations. We actually have a red color phone for emergency situations, so that if you wanted a red color phone, you may want to speak to one of our partners out there. We have the ability to go ahead and yield to specific red for emergency phones as well. Okay. One person stated here, is the X6U replacing the X6? Well, I think in the long term, we have a lot of X6s that are out there, and it'll be first come, first serve. But I think in the long term, in quite a few months from now, the X6U will eventually replace the current X6 in terms of capability is concerned. How do I get access to the FDMS? One way you can gain access to it is just give me a call. My name is Tommy Lee. I work out of California here, and you could send me a call, or you could just send an inquiry to support or sales@fanvil.com. You would need to just put in your company address, and I would actually advise that you put down a company address that points to a company. Otherwise, if you put in Yahoo or something like that, then we may cause suspicion about it, see what your intent is. But most of the time, we have no issues in giving out this tool for people who are interested in FDMS, as a tool that you can evaluate. Okay. Let me see. 5, 4, 3. Well, that's all I have for now. I appreciate your time. Again, if there's any questions at all, feel free to send it to sales@fanvil.com. Along with me is Melvin. You could contact Melvin Worley at ABP Tech. Is out of Dallas as well. You can give him a call, or any one of our partners a call if you have any questions. Again, I'm also copied on sales@fanvil.com. So if you send it to there, feel free to download the handouts that I've given out to everybody here. And if you have any questions after the call, feel free to send it in. I'll be more than happy to address your questions accordingly. Okay? Again, thanks very much for a little bit more than a half hour of your time. Enjoy yourself and stay healthy. Take care. Bye-bye.